What's going on, everyone? On today's show, we are breaking down a very important position in fantasy football, looking at the 2025 rookie quarterbacks in this draft, getting you ready for your Dynasty rookie drafts that are rapidly approaching. Which guys have the highest upside? Which guys do we think you might want to pass on this year? Either way, very important episode. Do not miss it. Without further ado, here we go.
Welcome to the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host this evening, Matt High, joined by Richie Kopech, and I had to bring in the QB whisperer, Warren Weber, for this episode. We are talking about the 2025 rookie quarterbacks. Which ones you should know, which guys you should draft in your fantasy rookie league, rookie drafts, and just make sure you get all these guys here. As a reminder, if you tuned into our tight end review episode, we're running a contest. We want to know what your best fantasy team name is. So start putting on the thinking caps. Go in the comment section below on any of our previous videos. You could drop a comment there with your favorite team name. We're picking two winners. Each one of them is going to get a full Dynasty roster review from the podcast. We're going to go through everything: strengths, weaknesses, what moves we think you should make in free agencies, maybe some trades. We're going to go through everything for you. So if you want to win that, make that team name, drop a like. You can subscribe to the podcast. It really helps us out to get more out there. We want to bring as much fantasy advice as possible to the public. So thank you for tuning in. I think that's about it. Let's dive right in. We're gonna start with Cam Ward out of Miami. Now in 2024, he had just over 4,300 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. 67.4% completion percentage. He is 6'2", 219 pounds. So, Warren, I want to hear from you first. Cam Ward is right now the consensus QB1 on most draft boards, going to Tennessee, the Browns, or the Giants. All kind of bad situations, but which one of those teams do you think would be the best for him? And does it matter? Is he going to translate no matter what?
So yeah, he's like your kind of the typical quarterback that you would want nowadays. You know, he's got the wheels. Shedeur, like we'll talk about Shedeur in a minute, but yeah, he's got the wheels. It's pretty much what every team kind of wants now. The guys that can run and throw. Yeah, like you said, the top three teams they're all looking for quarterbacks, and I just think that the Titans are going to take him at 1. If he does fall to 2, the Browns will take him at 2. It's just what I feel. I hope not, but I think that the Titans fit. They just need so much that I don't think it'll really matter instantly. They just need so many pieces, but he is the consensus number 1 pick. I personally probably agree with that, even though I don't necessarily like him that much. I do think that he's the best quarterback out of the group, which, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the group in total, but if there was one that I was going to pick, it would probably be him. Richie, what do you think?
Gotcha. So, Rich, if he goes to Tennessee, he's got Calvin Ridley there, and then kind of just a bunch of dudes. So I do expect them to be heavily invested in the wide receiver position in the draft. Now, this wide receiver class, we're going to break them down in another episode, but they look decent. There's a couple big names at the top. There's a couple value picks that, I like, but if they go out and draft a top wide receiver in this class and they draft Cam Ward, is that enough for you to pull the trigger on him in, maybe top 2 picks? Because it looks like Ashton Genty is probably going to be the consensus 101 across the board, no matter what the format is, superflex, 1 QB, doesn't matter. Would that elevate his rookie draft stock for you?
Yes, if they do definitely address the need for somebody to catch the ball over there, absolutely. I actually have the 102 in a league, and I'm going through that right now, racking my brain back and forth as to who to pick, just because I know that Ashton Genty is not going to be available there. So for me, yeah, Cam Ward, I think you can pull the trigger on him, especially if they bolster the wide receiver room or pass catching as a whole there. Though, like you previously mentioned, or Warren previously mentioned, they have a lot of holes there that they need to fill. So I don't know what I'm not exactly excited no matter what happens, either way. It's going to be a bit of a build up there for before Cam Ward, I think, can help you. You might get a flash in the pan or, flash week here or there, but wouldn't be too excited overall.
Now, typically we do see rookie quarterbacks not do what Jaden Daniels just did. They usually take a little bit of time to develop. So I guess most people are going to ask this question: is there a quarterback in this class, and would Cam Ward be that quarterback if he's drafted highly in the NFL draft and they make all these moves for fantasy? What is he year one? Is he back end QB1, more of a QB2? Is he someone you're just off of completely in 2025?
Me personally, I think I'm not taking a chance on him in 20 for a redraft situation. I'm not really taking a chance on him next season. Yeah, I just think it's too soon. We don't really know what's going to happen with him. But like I said and like Richie said, they just have too many holes to. I think it's too risky.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that 102 that I have, it's in a super flex. So that is really, or super flex dynasty, so that is a league where I am keeping those, or, I have time to develop that team. Definitely hands off on a redraft.
Gotcha. All right. I mean, my notes on Cam Ward were I saw a lot of accuracy struggles, and it's one of those things where I kind of we typically see that if you're not an accurate quarterback, you're just not going to work out. I mean, Anthony Richardson was kind of case in point for that. Accuracy issues all over the place, and now his job may be done. Like that might be gone. So that's kind of my fear with him. His footwork isn't the best. He makes a lot of off balance throws, which, yeah, sometimes it looks cool. We all see Pat Mahomes and Justin Herbert and even Joe Burrow to agree do that, where they're making some athletic throws on the run and kind of jump in the air, tossing it, and making big plays. That's not going to be consistent, though, which is the problem. And with him, I didn't think he had the strongest arm. My comp for him is kind of I guess it's more of an insult here, but I thought he looked a little bit more like Daniel Jones, just with a little bit less mobility. And if you've been with the podcast for any amount of time, I am a Giants fan. I did not like the drafting of Daniel Jones, and for obvious reasons. And yeah, so it's probably not the best, but I'm just kind of all hands off. Like I don't even want Cam Ward. If I have a pick that gets him, I'd rather trade back in the draft or trade out of the draft, or possibly just send it to someone else. Send that pick for a proven quarterback, like a Dak Prescott or something. I might prefer that because I think there's more fantasy value to be had. But either way, Cam Ward is probably going to go number one among quarterbacks. He's not my number one quarterback in the class, and we'll get to the next guy next. So, I guess speaking of that, Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. He's my number one quarterback in this class. He had just over 3,900 yards, passing yards, 35 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 73.6% completion percentage, which last I checked, I think was the highest in FBS history, if I remember correctly, which is a great feat. We were talking pre-show, me and Warren, about the competition he had to play against. It's part of it, but looking at his skill set, he just seems he's a lot better at managing in the pocket. He knows when to throw the ball away. He knows when to leak out to the side. He can kind of wait and extend the play enough for me that I think he's also very excellent over the middle of the field, which that's something if you can do well, CJ Stroud, Pat Mahomes, all these guys that do very well in the middle of the field, that's where most of the big plays go. If you can't do that, you're not going to work out. I had him comp to Geno Smith, just a little bit more mobile. Because look at Geno Smith. When he's protected, he's an excellent quarterback. It's the offensive line struggles that have been kind of the thorn in his side, his Achilles heel as of late. But Rich, what do you think of Shedeur? Because there's a good chance that he's coming to the Giants. And originally, there's an episode about a month or two ago. We were talking about NFL draft fears for the Giants. It was me, Joe, and Chris talking about what we did not want to happen. And one of those was drafting Shedeur Sanders. I've come around. I've changed my mind. I would be okay if they draft Shedeur Sanders. And I think that would be a good pick for them. I don't want to really wait for next year unless it's for Carson Beck, which it's probably not going to be because we'll somehow screw up, win enough games, and we get a high pick. Or higher pick, I should say. The Giants are going to be terrible, so they're not getting a high pick. A good pick. But what do you think about Shedeur?
Personally, I like Shedeur, but there is that it's hard to want to buy in. I believe just because of the fame of his last name and who his father is, yada yada, all of that coming, as a package deal with him. And just the school itself is questionable to me. It's not something that, where we've seen kind of like a high caliber quarterback that's translated into a franchise guy come from, per se. But obviously, it seems as of late, we've been having a lot of these outliers. So really, if he goes to the Giants, I like it just because of what I saw them do last year was play good ball, just essentially needing a few things and maybe I'm just kind of blinded because I'm a Giants fan, but it seems that like with Malik there, um, with the emergence of maybe Tyrone Tracy, the way that he was playing there as well, if they can fix a little bit of that line, if they can address it, I know that they've been trying to do so, but I know they've been filling holes on the defensive side. So if there's not that much pressure to Shedeur in year one or year two, really, and we can kind of ease him in. I know that his pocket presence is what is applauded to him. So more so than him running, and using the feet aspect. So granted, we might struggle there again, and we might kind of see them build up. But then again, kind of see how Tyrone also plays this year. Essentially, I guess what I'm getting at is yes, I do like Shedeur with what's going on with the Giants. I think it's a good fit and a team that's building, and I think he can, essentially become a good guy, a good franchise guy at the end of the day. I mean, Eli managed to grab us the two wins there at the Super Bowl, right? And he wasn't that crazy of a guy either. He just happened to have solid pocket presence. So
Now, Warren, let's say he does go to the Giants. That's what most people are expecting right now. My concern originally was that if the Giants don't do well, they're going to clear house. They're going to get a new GM. They're going to get a new head coach, possibly. Would that be enough to keep you off of drafting Shedeur Sanders in your dynasty rookie drafts? Again, that's all projection. We don't know. So you have to look into a crystal ball that doesn't exist to see that. But is that a concern for you as well?
Yeah, definitely. To me, I think that Shadeur's probably the most polarizing quarterback in this whole draft. You look at his numbers on paper; they're really good. You look at his highlights; they're really good. Um, but you look at who he played, and literally by the end of the season, the only ranked team he played was BYU the last week, and they got blown out. He threw for 200 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Or no, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Sorry. He still had a really good completion rate of 70%, but there's still like the yards weren't there, the touchdowns to interceptions, like they were equal. And I don't know, like I'm looking at his rushing numbers, and I don't know if these are accurate, but I've seen it on multiple websites where on the season he had 100 rushes for negative 50 yards.
That's college. They count sacks. When you take sacks, those count as negative. Yeah, it's
Okay.
stupid. I don't know why they do that, but
but that also tells me something where if he's getting pressured, he tends to hold on to the ball and not get rid of it, which also could be an issue, especially if he goes to a bad team with not that great of weapons like the Giants. I think in a perfect situation, if we were to plug him on like a team that had all the right weapons and was in a really good situation, I think he would thrive there. On a bad team, I'm not sure. I think it might be a struggle for him.
All right, so final question here. Between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, let's say they go into a situation that's not great this year. Based on their skill set, who has the highest ceiling and who has the highest floor? Let's start with you, Warren.
Just between those two.
Just between those two. We'll get to the other
Okay.
guys, but
Gotcha. The highest ceiling, I think it's Cam Ward.
really,
Yeah.
is that where you think too, Rich?
Yeah, I agree.
I guess you guys are both wrong because it's definitely Shedeur Sanders. But we'll see. We'll have to see what happens. But I don't know. I just really enjoyed watching his film. I didn't think I was going to. A lot of that was probably just because all the off the field type connotation with dealing with his dad and all this stuff. But I liked how he was patient in the pocket. He took sacks. I mean, that's a problem. It's got to get fixed. But I just think out of him and Cam Ward, I think it's easier to fix Shedeur Sanders' game than it would be to fix an accuracy issue. That is hard to figure out. I know Josh Allen did it, but there's one Josh Allen, and that's it. So I don't expect that to be a continued thing across the NFL. But now, speaking of the NFL, the free agency has been just wild this year. A lot of players have either stayed where we didn't expect them to, or they've gone to other teams and got traded. DK Metcalf. Chances are you're looking for new gear. You're either excited or you want to burn the team to the ground. So, with that being said, we have a sponsor, Fanatics. They have all the licensed gear you need. So, check it out. Listen, fantasy football is all about making the right picks. It's why you're still rocking that faded jersey from 2012. Your fantasy team might be rebuilding. Doesn't mean your game day gear has to be. That's where Fanatics comes in. Fanatics carries all the officially licensed NFL gear you need, including jerseys, hats, hoodies, and much more, to rep your squad like a true champion, even if your fantasy team is looking like it's tanking for next year's draft. No more embarrassing throwback jerseys unless it's on purpose. Head to fanatics.com to gear up today. Fanatics, because if you're going to draft like a champ, you better dress like one too. All right, next guy up here is going to be Jaxson Dart out of Ole Miss. Now, he's somewhat polarizing. I've seen a lot of people say that he's got the highest upside. I didn't really see it as much, but 2024 passing stats, 3,800 yards, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, a 68.4% completion percentage, height 6'2", and 223 pounds. Now, Rich, Jaxson Dart, I mean, Ole Miss, he's had a couple good quarterbacks come out of the drafts, What do you think about Jaxson Dart? Is he worth the shot? I mean, chances are you're taking him late first if he gets there, depending on the landing spot. Probably more like an early to mid second round pick in a superflex dynasty league.
Right. So with Jaxson Dart, it's going to really depend on where he goes. And I'm looking at the latest mock draft from Mr. Daniel Jeremiah. It looks like the Steelers are going to be grabbing him, which to me, I like that. I think when we were looking at last year's draft, it kind of reminds me similar to how I felt about Bo Nix going to the Broncos, where I was kind of questionable at first for if it's going to work out, and then you kind of see a game or two go, and all of a sudden, this kid that you didn't expect is managed to wiggle himself into a good position. I mean, with two stud wide receivers, I can see a kind of similar, surprising season from someone like Jaxson Dart. Sure. I would definitely try to grab him if I can in the late rounds. If I couldn't, second round, sure.
What about you, Warren? What are your thoughts?
Sorry.
So he is. I'd have to agree that he is, for me, my quarterback who has the highest upside. I like him over. I don't know if I like him over Cam Ward, but I like him over Shedeur. Shedeur is my number 3 personally.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. He. I was watching his film, and he makes a lot of tight throws, like where he's leading the receiver. It's a lot of like really good, especially the deep ball. It's really like in the tight coverage. It's only where the receiver can get it, which is where I look at, which is like what I look at most for these quarterbacks. Is like when I'm watching their highlights, like I try to look if the receiver's wide open, or if they're covered, where they're leading the receiver with the balls. I really like what I saw out of Jaxson Dart. I know his numbers weren't great, his touchdowns in particular, but and his yards, but they weren't as fancy as Cam Ward, Shadeur's. But for me, he has the highest upside.
See, for me, he didn't look like he excelled in a bunch of areas that I look for. He was he looked more average to me, which is not a bad thing. I mean, there's a lot of NFL quarterbacks that are average and they do well for fantasy. Kirk Cousins, which is actually funny enough my comp for him. Just obviously he's more mobile than Kirk Cousins, but I did see his most effective moments from what I was reviewing was when he hit his receivers in stride, which he can do clearly because he did it. But I don't know how consistent it's going to be. And for me, I don't know if if he's a week one starter, I'm out. I think he needs time to develop in an NFL franchise. Like if he does go to the Steelers, hopefully they do get someone like an Aaron Rodgers or something to kind of take some pressure off him. Now, I think he's going to start this season, similar to the way Drake May, sat the bench for a little bit, and then now he looks pretty good. I think he's set up in a good area. I think he needs that first couple games to just see how an NFL roster is run, how an offense is moving, develop chemistry with his players and receivers in practices. If he's drafted to be the week one starter, I think that's going to be bad for his career. I think he needs a little bit of time to develop and just see how things work, which isn't a bad thing. That's not a negative against him. It's just some players they need to see it change because college ball and NFL are completely different. So do you think that's a good assessment on, do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I think if he has to start right away, it might be a little tricky with him. I definitely think he needs to sit for a little bit, but yeah.
All right, so let's get on to the next guy here. Jalen Milroe out of Alabama. This is one of the guys I just ran a 40 time that everyone's freaking out about. So 2024 stats, 2,600 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, just under 65% completion percentage, 6'2", 217 pounds. Warren, what are your thoughts on Jalen Milroe?
I'm avoiding this guy. That's basically, I don't like him at all. I'm completely out on him. I just don't, I don't like him.
All right, Rich, do you have the same opinion, or are we willing to take a shot on him? Probably a mid-second round pick in drafts.
Yeah, I mean, I I like the rushing prowess, but seems like another Justin Fields experiment, which third team in 3 years. Let's see if anything happens now. So I don't know. I'm gonna say I'm gonna lean the side as well where Warren is. I don't really like this guy. If I can, I'd go pick someone else.
That's going to be a clean sweep because I feel the same way. I do not see the upside. Well, I shouldn't say that. Duke can run. He ran. I mean, it's a pro day, so it's not the best, but 4.37 isn't the worst. I mean, for a quarterback, that's pretty good. But what I did see is ball security issues. Now, ball security is job security. If you give the ball up, we see this all the time, mainly in running backs, you're not getting the ball again. So at a quarterback, you kind of can't really do that because quarterbacks they need the ball. Obviously, every play they're touching the ball. But I didn't really see how I didn't see a lot of good deep balls with him. The intermediate ball he lacked. It kind of seemed like his wide receivers bailed him out a little bit, where a lot of it was somewhat dink and dunk, and they kind of made plays after the fact. That he just kind of, I mean, he gets credit because he gave them the ball, but it's like, how much did you really do? Um, I did see he's very utilized near the goal line and a red zone rushing threat, which fantasy, that's what we care about. So I see the appeal if he can find the right situation, but he's another one similar to Jaxson Dart where I don't think he can start week one. In fact, I don't see him starting in 2025 at all outside of an injury or suspension or some crazy thing that happens every year. But it's really hard. He's easily beat if you flush him out of the pocket. He kind of breaks down. He doesn't know what to do. He just either throws the ball away or throws the ball to the other team, or, he had 10 interceptions and, 15 passing touchdowns. That's not really great. That's a pretty bad touchdown interception ratio. that's like Anthony Richardson level, which is not good. It's not good. All right.
Even his in college is better, right?
I think so. Yeah. So he's someone, if he's in like the end of the second, maybe mid third, depending on his landing spot, I might take the shot. My comp for him was Jalen Hurts, just less. Not as good as Jalen Hurts. He's got the rushing, he's got the similar stature. He's not Jalen Hurts. Do not hear what I'm not saying. He's not going to be a top 2 or 3 fantasy quarterback, probably. But just someone you could possibly take the shot, but don't use an early pick. Don't get, if he goes to like a great situation, don't buy up. Don't do it. All right. Last guy here is someone, let's just get it out of the way. My comp for him is Derek Carr. Okay. If anyone knows on the podcast, I dislike Derek Carr a lot. So we'll just go out there. So this is probably the worst thing. This is another guy I'm completely out on. I'm going to be really, really upfront about it. Quinn Ewers out of Texas. His 2024 passing stats, just over 2,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 6'2", 214 pounds. Now, you guys talk about him first, and then I will bring up his similarities to Derek Carr.
You want to go first, Richard?
His similarities to Derek Carr. I can't wait to hear this. I'll talk about him first, sure. Yeah, no, I'm out. He's probably the last guy on the list, right? So you're probably going to get him closer to like the end of the second round. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll fall into the third. So if he falls into a third round pick on a rookie draft, I'm in. But other than that, I'd rather probably spend my picks elsewhere.
Yeah, I don't hate him as much as you guys do. I mean, I would take him like end of second, maybe early third if he's there. I like him better than Milroe for sure. But his numbers don't look terrible. It's just he makes these stupid mistakes that really cost the team, which that's his big issue. Which
pretty big issue.
I guess is Derek Carr like, right?
That's my first comparison to Derek Carr.
Oh my God, here we go.
This is basically just a Derek Carr bashing podcast, as it's become. But all right, so that you already took number one, but number two is, why do people constantly throw hospital balls? Like, protect your receivers. He would constantly throw the ball into an area where the wide receiver has to jump up in the air, leave the ground to get it, and then get hit midair. Derek Carr perfects that. And as soon as I saw the first time, I'm like, is this Derek Carr? Did I get switched? Is the film just Derek Carr film, just a different jersey? I don't like what he had to offer on film. So many times I saw the ball hit the turf. It just overthrown completely. If it wasn't for his receivers to adjust to the lame ducks in the air, he would have way more incompletions. His completion percentage would be probably in the low 60s, upper 50s. It's just, I don't see how it's going to work out with him. I see him as a career backup, Teddy Bridgewater-esque, where if he's on the field, it's kind of just to get you by to get to the next guy that you want. So, I mean, I don't mean to besmirch the man, but it's just for fantasy, I'm out. I can't do it. It's bad enough we have a Derek Carr in the NFL that fantasy managers have to thrust into their lineup just to watch disappointment. I don't want to do that in my rookie draft. So, I guess am I being too harsh on this kid? Am I being too harsh on
he
Derek
thinks he's
Carr?
QB1. So, he thinks he's QB1 in the draft.
Yeah.
All right. Well, no, if he thinks he's QB1 in the draft, then definitely it's all right. We can rip on him.
Hey, he might be a viewer. You never know.
If he is, he's not anymore. I'll watch your subscriber count drop one after this episode goes live, and then we'll find out. We'll know. But I don't know. I just don't see how it's going to work out for him in the NFL, or definitely not for fantasy. So like I don't care if he drops to the 4th, 5th round. I'm not taking him because he's going to sit on my taxi squad, sit on my bench. I'm never going to play him. Is there any point where you guys would do it?
What? Pull the trigger and grab him? Yeah, I'd take a third on him.
Man, that's
in a rookie. We're talking rookie draft, right?
Yeah, I'd rather take. We're going to get into the other positions.
He is right
very
now.
Shortly.
You're not going to get him if you wait any longer than that.
Good.
This class,
I don't want him.
Honestly, I don't want anybody other than the running backs.
I mean, this is
that's kind of how I feel about it too.
It's a running back class. Wait till we talk about that episode.
Yeah, but we got the wide receivers and the running backs to come up. We're working on a schedule to get those out. We're just all kind of looking at a little bit more because those ones are going to be long episodes. Just to kind of throw that out there, they're going to be long or 2-parters because there's so much to talk about, and there's just a ton of guys that we got to go through. Some are really good. Some I think people are pushing up a little too high, but we'll get into that. But as far as the quarterbacks go, obviously I think this is a weaker class than the past couple. So is there any chance you would trade one of these picks for, I mean, Caleb Williams is probably someone no one's going to really trade away just because of what's happening right now with the Bears. They got Ben Johnson, and they're kind of making moves. But are there any other quarterbacks? Michael Penix. Would you rather have Michael Penix or one of these quarterbacks?
Am I trading like my pick, or am I just going like
trading your pick?
Up? I'm trading Michael. Yeah. Well, I guess
out of these quarterbacks, which one do you think you would prefer to have, or how many, if there were multiple, you would rather have over Michael Penix?
For me, I think it depends where they go. Michael Penix is in a pretty good situation right now, I think. So
yeah, this really depends on where they go.
Yeah, like if Cam Ward were to go to Tennessee, I would 100% trade that pick for Penix. But yeah.
Okay, I mean the top 3 picks in the NFL draft are going quarterback most likely, or at least 2 out of the 3. So any of those situations, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, whoever's drafted first, over Michael Penix, or would you rather?
Now you got my brain thinking.
That's what we do here at the podcast, man. We make the Browns
pick. The Browns pick. I might be a little biased here, but I don't think their situation is quite as bad as the Titans or the Giants situation, but because I think they have a little bit more weapons. But again, I could be biased.
It's all right. It's all right. We're Giants fans. We know how bias works. But you still thinking over there, Rich? Or are we gonna have to do another episode? We'll have a little short episode where we can talk about some of these things.
No. I mean, it's interesting, because I guess with Michael Penix, like, yeah, it seems like you feel more confident with him than really any of these guys, and where they're going, like what's like even an option to them, So I'm just kind of selecting through my brain. I mean, I like Cam Ward in Cleveland. I do, more so than I think yeah, Cam Ward in Cleveland, I think I'd keep over Michael Penix. But other than that, I think in every other scenario, I'd go Michael Penix.
All right. There we go. Well, that's going to wrap up. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say I don't want my reputation as a QB whisperer to be tarnished here, because I just want to point out I really don't like any quarterback in this draft. But if I
Yeah,
were
I
to
don't
pick
either.
one to like kind of be above the rest, it would be Jaxson Dart. But again, I don't
You know what?
I don't really like anyone. So
I'm gonna leave it with my one tidbit here. If for whatever reason or somehow you can get your hands on, like, if you need a quarterback and you're relying on this class and you have a high draft pick, uh, definitely try to persuade the owners of Michael Penix, or I would even look in the direction of the Joe Milton owner. Joe Milton right now is sitting behind Drake May, and there's a lot of this speculations as to like what's going to happen. This whole hoo ha, whatever. We don't know where he's going, if he's going to go. Patriots maybe going to trade him, but honestly, from what I hear, Joe Milton is better than any of these quarterbacks coming into this class. So, and we've seen a little bit of what he can do at the end of the season there with the Patriots. So honestly, yeah, if you can grab a haul for one of these early draft picks that you have and include a Michael Penix or include a Joe Milton in there, because if you're trying to take a shot on one of these guys, you might as well take a shot on one of them.
I like it. Not really high on Joe Milton, but I have seen a lot of buzz being around him. People were saying, "Oh, is it Drake May's team?" But yeah, it's Drake May's team. There's no doubt about that. A lot of times, I feel like people elevate what they're selling to sell it
I
because
just
I'm not
I just
gonna.
feel like if you're offering like the 103 or 102 and that's where you are, and somebody's already taken Genty, and now you're looking at one of those two quarterbacks there. I mean, I'd rather just not deal with that. Try to address another position with that high draft pick and throw in Joe Milton there, because I'm still just risking the dice on what's going on. Or try to grab Michael Penix plus something else. I feel like they would listen to it, just because of the high draft pick, regardless. Especially after the draft happens. There's always that everyone's foaming at the mouth, ready to go.
Oh
So,
yeah,
unless
and that's
unless you're trade embargoed, then
yes. We know how that feels, Warren. We definitely know how that feels. But another tip, little freebie before we jet out of here is draft picks. Their value is going to increase tremendously between now and your rookie draft. And in your draft, they are at their peak. Pay attention. Look at the board. See who may fall to you if you prefer to have that player. It looks like he might fall, and you don't like the guy that your app has you selecting just based on consensus and ADP. Look to make a deal because you can get it done. How many trades did we have in our rookie draft last year in the draft? I tried to have another one with Warren to get my guy Tim Patrick back on my roster, but we had someone auto draft a player that I wanted. Thank you, Jeremy. But it happens all the time. Just you got to stay water. Look at the draft board. Pay attention because you can find tremendous value while you're in the draft and even just before it. Because once the draft happens, no one's going to trade those players because they want to see. They draft them for a reason. Their price goes up potentially. So, all right, but I think that's going to wrap things up for us. That's pretty much everything on the quarterbacks, all the ones you should pay attention to in your rookie draft. There are other ones, but chances are they're
they
not
don't
going to see
matter.
the NFL field at all for the next couple of years outside of craziness, which is the NFL. It's not for long, but all right, gentlemen, I think that'll do it. So if anyone has any questions, comments, please send them our way. You can follow us on YouTube. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, kind of name it, we're there. And don't forget about that contest. We want to start seeing those pop in. We're going to keep a list of them. We will notify you if you are the winner. We're going to pick two. So if you want a Dynasty review, which I wish I had one a couple years ago, tell me what I was doing wrong or right, or see what moves. Maybe I would only have, be able to have more than just one victory in our Dynasty League. But here we are, clawing our way back to the top. So, all right, gentlemen, so long. I'll talk to you guys later.
peace.